10 years after 9/11, today we read from The End of History and the Last Man by Francis Fukuyama. We are in New York. Workers are constructing the new Freedom Tower, higher, more glorious than the previous center. It was 10 years ago that Al-Qaeda terrorists attacked the former World Trade Center and government buildings in Washington, killing thousands of innocent people. 9/11 changed the perception of the world dramatically. It was then just 10 years ago, in 1991, that the communist empire, the Soviet Union, collapsed, and the Western free democracies were still infatuated with the idea that their societies were now safe from big threats. The philosopher Francis Fukuyama wrote a famous work about this constellation with the triumphant title The End of History and the Last Man. He argued that after centuries of conflict between the idea of freedom and ideas rejecting freedom, like fascism and communism, the political idea of the free market and liberal democracies brought a decisive blow to its rivals. He wrote about liberal democracies: if it would not qualify as the most just regime in speech, it might serve as the most just regime in reality. But then a civil war started in former Yugoslavia, the bloody conflicts in Africa, terrorism in New York, Washington, Madrid, London, Indonesia, India. So no end of history, but new divisions. Freedom versus grim religious ideas, for example. So where do we stand 10 years after 9/11? Well, more countries have embraced democracy than 10 years ago. Worldwide, more boys and girls attend school. Those parts of the world that have worked towards personal and economical freedom perform better than those who didn't. And yes, of course, there are still worries. The new democratic developments in the Arab world are hopeful, but could also give way to politicians who want to make a travesty of democracy by abusing free elections to create unfree policies. But we know from history that those reactionary attempts may be successful for a while, but ultimately turn out to be mere side tracks in history. Freedom and democracy are not made with a simple movement of a magic wand, though. The West painfully experienced that by trying to enforce a quick-fix democracy in Iraq. But besides of that modesty, there's no reason to belittle the importance of the idea of individual freedom and democracy. 10 years after September 11, 20 years after the collapse of communism, 65 years after the World War II, more than 200 years after the American and French Revolution, they continue to be the most desirable of ideas, and more people tend to strive for them. So no end of history, but a great future for freedom, yes. I wish you many free thoughts.